Part 5 of MLA Style, General Rules for Quotes. So there are two types of quotes that you will have or be able to use, and that is a short, or what we call a regular quote, or a long, what we call a block quote. So first let's review the rules and examples for the short regular quote. To indicate short quotations, fewer than 4 typed lines of prose or 3 lines of verse in your text, enclose the quotation within double quotation marks. Provide the author and specific page citation. In the case of verse, provide line numbers in the text and then include a complete reference on the works cited page. Punctuation marks such as periods, commas, semicolons should appear after the parenthetical citation. Question marks and explanation points should appear within the quotation marks if they are part of the quoted passage, but after the parenthetical citation if they are part of your text. So here's some examples of short or regular quotes. The first one, according to some, dreams express, and then we have quotes where it starts, profound aspects of personality, quotes where it ends. In parentheses following the quote, then we have the author's last name and a page number, and the parentheses, and in this case a comma, because we're still continuing on with more words, though others disagree, and then ending our proper punctuation at the end. The second example, according to Folk's study, dreams may express, quotes where it starts, profound aspects of personality, quotes where it ends. And then in parentheses, we just have the page number this time. Because we already mentioned who is saying that, folks, up here, we do not have to put folks in front of the 184. It would not be wrong if you put folks in front of it, but it's not necessary because you've already mentioned it here. So just the page number is all that you need. Then the last example. Is it possible that dreams may express, quotes where it starts, profound aspects of personality, quotes where it ends, in parentheses, the author's last name, page number. Because this particular sentence is asking a question, and we put the proper punctuation at the end after that, and that being a question mark. Now moving on to the long block quote. So for quotations that extend to more than 4 lines of verse or prose, place quotations in a freestanding block of text and admit quotation marks. Start the quotation on a new line with the entire quote indented, basically tabbed, from the left margin a ½ inch, which maintains then double spacing. Your parenthetical citation should come after the closing punctuation mark. For example, when citing more than 4 lines of prose, use the following example. So here we've got one opening sentence, and then a second sentence here. So in this first sentence that we're seeing, actually, this would be an example of summarizing. So we talked about summarizing before, so we're not using any quotes, as you can see, no word for word what someone is saying, but this idea within this sentence came from somewhere else and not us. So in parentheses at the end, we have the author's last name and then the page number in which this idea came from. Then we're going to set it up. This is where we look at that sandwich quote, right? So we're setting it up first, and then we're going to introduce it with the answers collected from this study. So referring to the study that's talked about here within this idea, now here's the study. So what you do here before you're going to introduce that quote is you would either put colon here or a comma would be okay as well, but one of the two then before you're going to introduce. Now notice that this is the start of a new paragraph, so we do have our proper indentation here. But then here's what they were talking about here. This right here that I'm circling around is the actual quote. Notice that there are no quotation marks where it starts. There are no quotation marks where it ends. Instead, though, we do have an indentation, so we tabbed. So what you do is then you make sure that you tab before this, okay, that first line. Then, in order to make this entire thing tabbed and aligned as it is, then you have to then put your cursor in front of the second line, hit tab again, and then all of this will align and all be in order as you see it. So remember, no quotes where it starts, none where it ends. The difference then is here. Because we've tabbed all of this, we're saying, yep, this is our big, large quote. And then what we do is we use the proper punctuation that the source uses. So in this case, at the end of the quote, they use a period here. So that's where we end our proper punctuation. We put one space, and then in parentheses, we put where this came from. So we have the author's last name and the page number. Then note there's no extra punctuation on this side. It's just here. It goes before then instead. So that's one of the differences. Then, like our sandwich quote says, we want to make sure that we're wrapping it up. So here's where we go. We've got two sentences, still part of this whole paragraph, okay? So these last two sentences are wrapping it up. How the heck does this connect, right? This quote connect to our overall topic. So in these two sentences, we're actually then paraphrasing something that happened, summarizing something that happened within another source that we're using, which then is labeled here. So these two sentences are our own, where we're kind of summarizing what happened within another source. That source then in parentheses listed here, so saying that that's where this idea came from, is this new source. And that source is the title of a documentary, which is a larger piece of work, and then is why it is italicized. So in parentheses, then we have where this idea of information came from, but it does show the connection to our overall topic then as well. So that's the two different types of quotes, either a short or regular quote or a long block